Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending the healthcare tech event. Simon and I are delighted to be presenting to you today. Simon, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everybody. Good to be with you. My name's Simon Wilson. I'm the CTO for Aruba here in the UK and I spend most of my time having great conversations with customers about the art of the possible and how our strategy can help them with their business objectives.
Thank you, Simon. I'm Stuart Pass. I'm CTO for Qolcom, an Aruba Platinum partner. We work to apply, obviously, those Aruba technologies to real-world use cases for our customers and deliver excellent, world-class experiences. Simon.
Thanks very much. And Stuart, if you just move on to my first slide, please. So, hello everybody. So, once again, thanks for giving us some of your time. I wonder if you've ever heard of Aruba. You probably have seen our logo on equipment if you've ever looked up in a supermarket or in some of the major sports stadiums or in the major hotels and hospitals indeed around the UK. We are a networking company, originally founded around wireless, and our focus is really on the outcome. So in this situation, you know, patient, staff outcomes, but we really want to focus on not what technology is, but what it can deliver for the organizations that we work with. So Stuart, if you could just move on to the next one. So just to give you a little bit of background on Aruba, like I said, we were primarily known as a Wi-Fi or wireless company. We were founded back in 2002, when really hardly anybody had heard of Wi-Fi. And you can imagine, you know, what has changed over the years from hardly anybody knowing the technology existed or indeed how big it would become, to the fact that I'm willing to bet that pretty much every one of you is watching this session through a Wi-Fi connection. It's something we all use almost all day, every day these days, especially now we're all kind of working remotely, or at least most of us are. And over the years, we've solved a number of key challenges on how to make these things easier to deploy. So things like zero-touch provisioning. We've solved the security issues, making it safe to use wireless technology, and in most cases safer than a wired connection that you would use. We added location services so you could navigate your way around buildings. We added cloud management that was intelligent and intuitive and could actually look for problems and present you with solutions to those problems, rather than just a typical kind of network management platform that would just shout and say, here's a problem, go diagnose it yourself. We wanted to use AI to help you fix those problems more quickly, or rather fix them maybe even before a user's noticed there's an issue. And more recently, we've expanded our portfolio into the data center. So data center, so bring a lot of the innovations that we've done in the campus arena, in a hospital arena, in a university arena, into the data center, because we believe there's some time and cost savings that can be had there as well. And over the years, we've gained tremendous number of really high-profile customers across the world, 500,000 in total. I think it's probably a light estimate these days, and 300 of the Fortune 500 customers. So we're very well respected in this industry. Stuart, if you could just move on to the next one for me. So what is it that's currently driving us today? Well, data is the big thing, and it's driving, you know, the current generation of transformation, and will do for the next many years. And there's two kind of key statistics I'd like you to take out of this. One is that data is not being created or used where it used to be. You know, typically data was stored within a corporate data center or in the data center in the basement of your location, and it was used on a fixed desktop with people who sat at the same desk every day. That's absolutely not the case today. In fact, a lot of the new use cases we're seeing, particularly around medical imaging, require that data is not only created, but is also analyzed and processed and stored at the edge before maybe being uploaded to a cloud data center for further analysis or for long-term storage. So we have to think about how we're going to build networks moving forward to cope with the fact that things are not where they used to be. Data is not where it was, and we have to think about how we protect it both in transit between the locations and also while it's at rest, because again, we're seeing a huge number of security threats happening these days. And the second thing is what things are being connected to our networks. It used to be just, you know, fixed devices like PCs and printers, but now, of course, with the world of IoT, everything's being connected, from, you know, electronic door locks through smart hand sanitizers that know how often they're used and whether or not they need replenishment, you know, sensors for temperature and fire and all sorts of things, all now being connected to the infrastructure. And of course, what that means is we need to think about the security aspect of it. If we're going to detect a wider variety of devices, then we open up potentially what we call the security threat to these devices being compromised. So we need to make sure we have a stronger and tighter security regime to allow all these devices to be connected and therefore provide value, but to do it in a safe and effective manner. Now, I wanted to turn the majority of the session over to Stuart today. So I just wanted to tell you one brief personal story that hopefully gives you an idea of how we think about solutions moving forward. And I'd like to tell you about my story. I've been unfortunate enough to have needed, medical help over the past 12 months. But fortunate enough, because I'm in the UK and we've got the great NHS supporting me. And I have to say that everybody I met through my journey, and by the way, I'm kind of okay now. I think we're managing things. But everyone I've met along the way has been fantastic and wonderful. And my experience has really, really been good. But being a technologist, whenever I am experiencing any particular location, whether I'm in a hotel or a hospital or in a sports stadium or wherever I might be, even shopping, I look at things that aren't as efficient as they could be, and I think, how could technology make a difference? And I can often see how technology could make things better for everyone. And one of the things I was thinking about my personal journey was, going to the hospital, was I was told that the A&E wasn't that busy, which it wasn't. But because of social distancing, half the seats in the waiting room were blocked off. So actually, it was kind of as busy as it would normally be in terms of the places you could sit. So I was thinking, well, why is it that I have to, one, go and announce myself, two, then sit in the waiting room waiting for someone to call me? Is there a better way with technology, given that I've got a mobile phone in my hand almost all day, every day? Is there a better way for that to happen? And then, of course, as I go around the hospital, from the initial consultation to getting a test done, to then going back and waiting, is there a better way I could navigate my way around the hospital? Could I interact with less people? And the answer is yes. The indoor navigation systems that we have would allow you to do that. Could we help the staff? And I saw a number of times where staff would walk out of an office and call a patient. The patient wasn't there at the time. They go back in that office, come back out a few minutes later and call another person again. Could we reduce the amount of, frankly, miles each member of staff walks in an individual day by improving the efficiency of the processes? So, those are the kind of things I'm thinking about when I'm in these environments. And even though, like I said, I wasn't particularly happy to be there, I was still thinking about what we could do moving forward. And of course, one of the last things that I realized as I was kind of finishing my visit to the hospital was all the instructions I'd been given. Sometimes you don't always understand all the things that you're being told, or maybe even the presence of mind to remember them all. And of course, I'm having to remember all the things I'm supposed to do and then go back. Wouldn't it be an easier way if, as a result of my consultation, that could be just texted me afterwards? So there's lots of ways I think that technology could really help improve, one, the experience I had, but two, the experience everybody has, from patients to staff to people, even people moving around the hospital in administrative functions. So with that, I'm going to say thank you very much for your time. And Stuart, if you could just move on to the next one for me. It's been really great to be with you for a few minutes. Like I said, I wanted to turn the majority of the time over to Stuart to talk to you about some real world examples of how we've done this in healthcare over the past few months. So with that, I'd like to say stay safe and please stay connected. And if you've got any ideas for how some of the things I've talked about could benefit you, then please get in touch. We'd love to have that conversation. So Stuart, over to you.
Thank you very much, Simon. Thank you for being brave and sharing that picture of yourself in a gown, and I'm glad you're better. Glad that it's all going in the right direction. So yes, as Simon said, we are focused on delivering outcomes. It starts with plugging in a network and making sure people can connect to that network, but it ends with how people are experiencing the network, the space that they're in, the way they interact with people, with technology, and with the like. And that's very much at Qolcom how we like to sort of focus in on that outcomes-driven conversation and make sure that we deliver upon that. We break it down into user experience, operational experience, and business experience or business outcome. And on the user experience side, especially for the healthcare sector, we're talking about patients, we're talking about visitors, all members of the public, but we're talking about clinicians, and admin staff as well. This is just an example slide of some of the things that we are delivering as an experience by providing these tools and these technologies. So you're accessing patient data, again, whether you're a an individual who needs to access their NHS records, all the way up to obviously clinical staff and admin staff who have access to secure patient data. That needs to be available from the right devices, from the right locations within the hospital, or even outside the hospital. Providing those mobile health apps that actually are part of that digital transformation journey that every organisation is on, making sure that there is a flow of communication, of statistics, of analysis between those apps that are making people's lives easier. And as Simon said, making sure people don't have to maybe even walk so far with a piece of paper. An important one we'll focus on later, down in that bottom left-hand corner there, is finding medical assets. With a medical asset, an average medical asset in thousands of pounds arena, that can not necessarily get stolen or go missing or even leave the hospital, but are in the wrong place at the wrong time. If there was a way to find those assets quickly and to put them to good use, then that's going to save time and most crucially save money. And putting patients and visitors at ease. Simon's story there about just navigating your way around the hospital, about checking in, about knowing where your next appointment is and where you need to be. So these are all potential outcomes and should be delivered as first-class user experiences. From an operational point of view, we'll skip over these, but they are important operationally, from IT to estates to security. We want to be using technology in the right way that streamlines those processes on the back end, that allow for these systems to be easily deployed, easily supported, and allow for a continuous improvement cycle. And the business or trust outcomes and experiences are a lot of what everyone's looking for within any business, within any structure, which is to improve productivity, reduce costs, and drive value for all of those that need value from that organisation. Very brief bit about Qolcom and what we do, and I guess how we do it to deliver on some of those outcomes. We are obviously, with our partners such as Aruba, experts at delivering network infrastructure, and some of the people on the call today, that is going to be your prime responsibility as well, or one of your prime responsibilities, to deliver that completely solid network infrastructure. But what we found over the last couple of years is we're adding a layer of intelligence to that network. We're getting a lot more information about how that network is used, when that network is used, and by who and when. And that information often isn't really utilized to the best effect. And that's why we've created ourselves a digital workplace, digital campus, smart hospital practice on the left-hand side there, to start to really drive value from those network infrastructures and make them really work for our customers and deliver on those experiences and outcomes. Our third pillar here, if you like, is security, but everything we do obviously has a focus on security. We have to keep our data secure and safe, and we have to make sure it's only accessed by the right people. But that's sort of inherent in everything that we do. So every organisation is on a digital transformation journey. It doesn't matter whether you're a small enterprise or a large public sector body like the NHS trusts. Everyone is looking at how digital can make things better. Digital transformation is the application of technology combined with improved processes to streamline everything that we do on a daily basis. And it's a continual process. It's a continual change. It's something we've all got used to or are getting used to in this world of ours. But we've obviously want to focus on the why, how, and who. We sort of touched a little bit on the how with Qolcom, and we'll go a little bit more into detail. But really, again, if we're focusing on experiences and focusing on outcomes, we are going to very quickly sort of come down to the conversation about who is this aimed at, who is benefiting from these solutions, and what experiences do we want to deliver. So we'll often break that down into a number of different personas, and this is just an example. We can go much more granular than this if we need to be. We've put patients and visitors together as a single persona, but maybe there are things that actually make them different. But generally, they need access to general access to an internet connection. They need access to their own personal digital health records, and we might want to give them some tools that help them navigate the hospital or navigate the environment they're in, or manage their appointments and get a data flow between themselves and the professionals. You've got health workers. Obviously, that's a bit of a generic term, but that includes everyone that's working in the hospital that's providing healthcare, and they're obviously going to have a very different set of uses than the patients and the visitors. They might be clinicians that need to record notes on a secure recording system and get that uploaded to a central server. They may be downloading high quality images to an iPad of a recent X-ray or MRI results and reviewing those with their colleagues. So they access to some very important data and very labor intensive, network intensive data that we need to make sure is delivered to them on time. We've got multi-agency workers. I won't dwell too much on some of the different use cases at the end there, and we've got IT managers. Just an example of how we break this down to understand what the outcome needs to be. But really, this session was going to be about a digital hospital. What is a digital hospital? What is digital healthcare? And from this sort of networks and intelligent infrastructure point of view, how does that affect the outcome of delivering a digital hospital? So I want to start again with that central pillar for Qolcom, the piece where Aruba are absolutely at the top of their game, is that foundational network infrastructure. And how does that actually deliver on the experiences that we've talked about, and that we'll talk to our customers about, and we'll ascertain where they need to be? Well, if we're providing really solid foundational network, people sometimes use a rather derogatory term of it's just the plumbing, but it really is. You shouldn't really notice it's there. It should be ubiquitous access across the whole environment. People only really notice that the network is there when it's not there, if you know what I mean. So we give the users, whether they be, again, visitors, patients, clinical staff, the ability to use the device they need to use for their job, the device they want to use for their job. So it might be an authority issued device that we seamlessly onboard onto the network and give them access to all of that clinical data. It might be just something, a simple handheld device that only has one use only, but that's always going to be logged onto the network. It's always going to be doing exactly what it needs to do. And like I say, across the hospital, that experience needs to be the same. If you're using a wireless network all the way from the basement all the way up to the top floor, if you need to plug a device in at a bedside within a ward, there's always the right connectivity available, and it's as it's as familiar as it can be, and that there's no real barriers to getting onto that network and getting those devices connected. From an operational experience, you need to be working in an environment that is secure, that a fully managed authority issued clinical device has access to all of the right information for that clinical member of staff, all the way down to a temperature monitor that's just an IoT device that's plugged into your network, only reports temperature up to one server, and that's all it can do, so that it can never be compromised. You want to be guaranteed that that's a secure connection, and you want full visibility of all the devices, where they are, how they're used, and the business outcomes then effectively deliver themselves in terms of improved productivity and rapid return on investment. And rapid return on investment with this Aruba portfolio that we deal with is a really key point, because with the conversation that we've just had, you're probably thinking in terms of a Wi-Fi network and sometimes a port that you plug a device into on a wall. And we know that that's secure, and we know that we're going to deliver that as a complete security package, and that the policies and profiles for users are the same across the two. And that's great. We can deploy all that, as you can see on the bottom orange line here, all the way up to mobile security. But what you actually get with this infrastructure are a bunch of other enabled wireless networks, like Bluetooth Low Energy, like Zigbee, IoT radio network, and N-Ocean alliance networks as well, and we'll look how they're used. We'll look how they're used in a minute. So very rapidly, you've got other wireless networks that answer some of these other use cases, and it's already deployed. You've already invested. It's already there, and so that's really important to the rapid return on investment. So if we move into some of the location tools, Simon was talking about, could he navigate around the network around the hospital using the device in his hand? Yes, you can, and we can use the Bluetooth low energy network that's provided alongside the wireless network within the solution to give people the opportunity to download a map, find where they are on the map, get turn-by-turn instructions as to where their next appointment is within the hospital. I mean, how many times have we turned up at a hospital and trying to interpret the color coding system on the static signs that are hanging from the ceiling or put onto the wall? You take a turn and the signs disappear and you think you might have gone the wrong way. We can easily solve those problems. We can get people checking in at a digital reception very rapidly, either using their device or a console that's been provided to them. We're back to asset tracking again on the operational experience. This is key. Again, the Bluetooth low energy that's deployed alongside the Wi-Fi and the wireless LAN is already there and already enabled, and that very quickly enables that high value asset to have a 10 or 20 pounds asset tag attached to it, and for it to be located within the hospital through an app or through a web interface. And that's really key to delivering the asset to deliver the right service at the right time. And all the analytical data that sits behind that, how the hospital space is being used, where the people might be. Not Big Brother, we're not tracking individuals down to their national insurance number and finding out where they are in your hospital. We're just trying to find out how the space is used, where people are using it most, where the assets are, and effectively improving efficiency for everyone. And that's an operational experience for estates, for IT, and for clinical staff. Here's just a graphical representation of some of that. These slides we can make available, and you can ponder this at your leisure. But as you can see, all of those use cases are represented within this very small hospital example here. But hospitals are vast, hospitals are massive, and having the ability to navigate them sensibly is key. And one of the final pieces that we enable that digital hospital experience is the IoT and sensor network. So IoT are all those devices that are on the network these days. They can be thermostats that are wirelessly linked to heating systems within rooms. They can be rooms that and lighting systems that sense the presence of somebody so that they save energy. They only put the lights on when somebody has walked into that room. They can be connected via Wi-Fi, of course they can, but a lot of them connect via separate IoT and sensor networks. And you might find within a new build that a building contractor or a building management contractor has had to install a secondary wireless network alongside the Wi-Fi network just to manage these intelligent buildings. Well, we can do all of that over the Aruba system. We can enable the Bluetooth networks, the Zigbee networks, and the Enocean Alliance networks to combine all of that sensor data into one network connection, and ultimately push that data out to a single source so that it can be correlated and it can make a lot more sense. And that allows for static digital signage, data-driven decisions, and most importantly, this system is automated, so it's an if this then that solution. So it can detect water leaks, it can shut down power, it can detect the energy within a building based on energy use based on occupancy. So if this part of the hospital or this ward or this clinical space is not used at the weekends, for instance, why are we still using energy within it? Well, shouldn't we be shutting down the heating and the power, etc.? So these are all the sort of outcomes that can be delivered through IoT and sensors. And this graphical representation shows that. So we can use the Aruba network to send a lot of that data. back to a central cloud service where all of the data can be viewed, but we can combine existing IoT and sensor networks as well that might already be in play, and just include that as a single data source for single data-driven decisions based on occupancy, based on heating, based on humidity, all sorts of use cases. And I think Simon mentioned a couple in terms of door activation, fire activation, and sensing and heat and humidity and temperature. And this is just a small set of examples that may be relevant to healthcare, sheltered housing, general building maintenance. These are the sorts of things that are being put all around new buildings and can really can drive value out of the network. I'd just like to finish on a couple of examples, case studies. This one here, it might be a rather emotive image, but my children are growing up now, but back in the day, it just used to be a little plastic tag that was put around their wrist or foot just to identify them. This is just the modern version of that. Obviously it includes a little bit more information and data, maybe about that patient, about that baby, but most importantly, it's got some key technology in it which integrates with the wireless networks we've talked about and can be put on an alert system. So if that tag was to leave the maternity ward, then an alert can be raised and the right systems can spring into action. But that's very similar. I mean, not that we should be tagging people, I guess, but it's very similar to asset tags on high value devices as well. Exactly the same type of use case, just for that very, very important asset. We want to know when it's in the hospital that it's in the right place. And that's a key use case. Another case study I just want to draw your attention to, and this is something we were really proud to be involved in last year. Working with the Royal Devon and Exeter Trust, we worked with Aruba and deployed the network infrastructure down at the Nightingale Exeter. And why that's important is because a lot of what we talk about for that quick and rapid return on investment is a reference architecture effectively for Aruba. So we pretty much knew the types of switches, the types of APs, the wired and wireless network with the security overlay piece that would be delivered into the Nightingale Exeter Hospital, and we could do that extremely rapidly. And what we know then is that it's actually ready to receive additional layers if that's appropriate. I mean, it's not a massive space, it's a 100 bed unit from what I remember, but if we want to enable some asset tracking within there, we have the infrastructure to do that, and we can just turn that on at a moment's notice and combine that with any solution that the Royal Devon and Exeter may also be doing, and make sure that that's all visible from a single console and that those data-driven decisions can be made. So just a key example of how rapidly we can do this and how quickly you can realise the benefits of a simpler user experience. I think we're out of time. Simon, anything you wanted to add at the last minute to any of those case study points?
No, well, only that I'm extremely proud that we're able to assist with that Nightingale Hospital in using some of those reference designs you talked about to do a very rapid deployment. That was the key thing there, was helping with a very rapid deployment. Yeah, very, very, very worthwhile. So no, I'd like to thank everyone for their attendance, and our respective teams are on hand to answer any questions you have throughout the day.